Hi, I'm Victoria, your host of Eyes on Crime. In today's episode, we're covering a case that's haunted the city of Columbus, Ohio for 6 years. A young father who vanished in the middle of a weekend getaway. He spent the night out with his wife and one of his closest friends, celebrating, drinking, and just trying to have a good time. But somewhere in those final hours, something drastically changed. One minute he was there, and the next he was gone. This is the disappearance of Tyler Davis. To understand just how strange this was, how fast things unraveled, and how out of character it was for Tyler, you have to go back. You have to know who he was. Tyler grew up in Wilmington, Ohio, a small city just outside of Cincinnati, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. Tyler and Brittany met while working at a salon. He was the manager. They hit it off right away. Even after they moved on to different jobs, they kept in touch. And over time, that connection deepened into something more. They officially got together in early 2016. By the next summer, Brittany was pregnant, and Tyler couldn't have been happier. He picked the name Aaron himself after one of his favorite Green Bay Packers players. That fall, they got married. They didn't have a lot, were basically living on love, but they didn't care. They had each other, and Tyler was all in. He loved being a dad. He didn't just show up for the big stuff. He showed up for everything. He'd come home after a long day, sit on the floor, and be fully present. Rocking his son, feeding him, helping with bedtime, whatever was needed. Their schedules weren't traditional. Brittany usually got home from bartending around 2:30 or 3 a.m., and Tyler wasn't far behind, but they made it work. They even shifted Aaron's bedtime to midnight, just so they could still have real family time. Tyler gave everything he had, even when he was running on fumes. At Wendy's, where he worked as a manager, he was just as committed. One of his co-workers once described him as more of a father figure than a boss, someone who gave advice, shared what he had, and looked out for the people around him. They said he'd offer money, food, even the clothes off his back if someone needed it. He played games with them outside of work, showed up for his team, and talked about his son daily. Nights alone were rare, hard-earned, and always appreciated. But a few times a year, on their birthdays and their anniversary, they made time for each other. No work, no responsibilities, just the two of them. February 23rd, 2019 was one of those nights, and they had been looking forward to it. Tyler had just worked 6 straight shifts, 10 to 12 hours each. He didn't get home until 3:30 in the morning, but instead of going straight to bed, he stayed up with Brittany. They packed, played video games, and finally crashed around 5:30 or 6 a.m. He was exhausted, but that's how he lived, building a future for his family, one shift at a time. Saturday didn't start the way they planned. They overslept and missed their noon meetup with Tyler's parents, who were taking care of Aaron for the weekend. Instead, they left Wilmington around 1 p.m. and met up at Texas Roadhouse on Stringtown Road around 3:30. After lunch, they stopped for gas at a speedway off I-71 and headed toward Columbus. They booked their hotel kind of last minute. Still, they picked the best spot. They chose Easton Town Center for the weekend. It's not just a shopping center. It's like a town within a city. Over 270 stores, more than 70 restaurants and bars, a few condos, townhomes, and plenty of hotels nearby. Once you park your car, you can walk just about everywhere. The only real plan was a couple's massage the next day before picking up Aaron. Everything else, wide open. They checked into the Hilton at exactly 5 p.m. The rest of the afternoon was quiet. They both showered, lounged around, and according to Brittany, they watched some trashy TV. Brittany had invited a few of her friends to come celebrate, but none of them could make it. Later that night, one of Tyler's closest friends, Sean, met up with them instead. He and Tyler had been close for nearly a decade. They talked almost every day, played video games, and stayed tight even as life moved on. In fact, when Tyler proposed, Sean was the one who helped design Brittany's wedding ring. The three of them left the hotel around 8:30 p.m. Before they stepped out, Tyler handed one of the hotel key cards to Sean, just in case he crashed on the couch later. He held on to the other one, thinking he and Brittany would stay together for the rest of the night. They spent the next 40 minutes walking around Easton. It was Brittany's first time there, so they were just exploring, checking out the shops, scoping out the bars, taking it all in. Nothing rushed, just some time to relax and enjoy the night. Eventually, they stopped at Bar Louie. Tyler wasn't a cocktail guy. He preferred something straight or maybe a shot. Brittany had one or two drinks. Tyler barely finished one. They also shared a lemon drop shot. They paid the tab around 10:15 and walked over to Adobe Gila's, another bar nearby. Adobe is where things picked up a bit. Tyler had about 4 or 5 drinks there, sipping slowly like he usually did. Brittany had a few more as well. They closed their tab at 11:30 but stayed a little longer to finish their drinks. They still weren't ready to call it a night. Late nights were kind of their normal. That's when Brittany brought up the Dollhouse, a gentleman's club about 15 minutes away. She'd never been to one before and figured why not. So they swung back by the Hilton to use the restroom and order an Uber. The car pulled up and dropped them off at around 12:45 a.m. According to Brittany, they were just having a good time. Nothing wild, just drinks, some laughs, tipping a few dancers. They even bought one a drink. Brittany said she was mostly playing wingman for Sean that night. It was their first time ever drinking in a bar together, and they were just trying to enjoy it. She was drinking Bahama Mamas all night. Tyler was ordering shots, usually tequila or Tito's. Brittany stated they had maybe 3 or 4 more drinks there, but nothing that seemed to hit him hard. He wasn't stumbling, wasn't slurring. He seemed fine. At some point, Brittany stepped outside to smoke, but security told her she couldn't take her drink with her, and that's when she hesitated. She was a bartender. She knew better. You don't leave a drink behind unattended. Still, she didn't want to cause a scene, so she set the drink down and stepped outside. When she came back in, she picked it up again, took a sip, then handed the rest to Tyler before heading to the bathroom. Around 2:30 a.m., as she stepped out of the bathroom, she noticed the lights had come on, signaling closing time. She could hear Tyler and Sean in a tense exchange with the bouncer. Tyler kept repeating that he was just waiting on his wife to come out of the bathroom and that they were about to leave. When Brittany walked up, Tyler motioned to her and said, "Here she is. We're leaving." It's possible the bouncer thought they were lying to stall for time, maybe to keep talking to a dancer, but either way, the 3 of them were escorted out. They stepped outside and ordered an Uber. A red Saturn Vue pulled up around 3:01 a.m., and on the ride back to the hotel, both Tyler and Sean passed out. Brittany stayed awake. She knew Tyler didn't wake up easily, especially after drinking and running on barely any sleep. He could be a bear to wake up. They pulled up to the Hilton at 3:18 a.m. Brittany woke Sean up first. Then she asked, "How do you want to do this?" They opened the door and Sean leaned over and said, "Hey, Tyler, come on, let's go." But the Uber driver was visibly frustrated. He wanted them out of the car. Tyler was slow to respond. He looked around, confused and irritated, and said, "Why the hell are we even here? We're not where we're supposed to be." He insisted they were at the wrong hotel. He was maybe 5 feet from the doors. In the surveillance footage, it looks like Sean and Brittany were trying to block him in and steer him toward the entrance, but Tyler pushed past them and kept moving. Whether it was frustration, confusion, or just exhaustion, no one knows for sure. Brittany's phone was almost dead and she needed to use the bathroom. She was about to follow Tyler when Sean stepped in. "No, Brittany, don't worry, I've got it. We'll be right back. You go on upstairs." He handed her the room key and told her to charge her phone. He'd go after Tyler. Brittany assumed he'd bring him back. So she agreed and stood there watching as Tyler walked off diagonally across the parking lot toward a row of condos and the main road. According to Brittany, they left together, not separately. That's something she's never wavered on. She went upstairs, plugged in her phone, and used the bathroom. She said she wasn't up there long, maybe 10 minutes. As soon as it showed even a little charge, just 4%, she headed back downstairs. But neither of them were there. She called Tyler, then Sean. No answer. She messaged them on Facebook. She even tried video calling Tyler, hoping she might catch a glimpse of where he was, something in the background that could point her in the right direction, but the call never connected. At 3:37 a.m., Tyler finally called. Brittany said he sounded mad, but told her, "I'm sorry, I'm just walking around smoking a cigarette." She was pissed and told him, "I'll see you in a few minutes," before hanging up. Not long after, Sean came back to the hotel, alone. Brittany saw him walk up and immediately asked, "Where's Tyler?" Sean didn't seem alarmed. He just shook his head and said, "Don't worry, he's just blowing off steam. He'll be right back." Brittany wasn't convinced. She pressed him again, but Sean stayed calm. "It's fine. He just needed to walk. He knows where we are. You can't really get lost here. Look at where we're staying. It's the biggest building around." But something about it didn't sit right. She started to panic, and she kept asking him, "Why didn't you follow him?" Just a few minutes later, around 3:42 a.m., Sean called Tyler. He told him Brittany was upset and asked him to come back to the hotel. That call reportedly lasted about 8 minutes. At some point during the call, Sean supposedly told him to just look for the building with the big H on the side. "That's how you'll know you're close," he said. Other than that, no one knows exactly what was said. Whatever it was, it didn't change anything. They started walking the lot together, just trying to see if maybe he'd circled back, calling his name, checking every direction. It was still dark outside, completely still, silent, not a single car, not a single person. After a few minutes, they split up to cover more ground. Brittany stayed close to the hotel, scanning the parking lot and nearby walkways. Sean went farther toward the side streets. They stood on the corner, waiting, hoping, watching for him to walk back up. At 4:10 a.m., Tyler called Brittany again. He told her, "I'm sorry. I see the hotel. I'll be there in like 5 minutes." But then he said something that didn't make sense. "I'm walking through the woods. I'll be there in a few minutes." That part caught her off guard. Tyler wasn't the outdoorsy type. He played video games, built Legos, watched movies. He liked being inside. He only went outdoors when he had to, and the shoes he was wearing that night, he'd had them since college, over 7 years old. She asked him, "Do you want me to come meet you?" He told her no, said he could see the hotel and that he'd be right there, and she believed him. It was massive, fully lit. There was no way he could miss it if he was anywhere nearby. Later, Brittany said Tyler might have used the word woods loosely. To him, that could have meant 3 trees in a circle. And Easton? It's not out in the country. It's a built-up area, lit up, surrounded by shops, restaurants, hotels, sidewalks. So, at the time, she dismissed it. Sean and Brittany stood there waiting, hoping he'd walk back up. Less than a minute later, Brittany's phone rang again. She picked up. Silence. 4 seconds. The call dropped. His phone went dead. She tried calling him back, but it went straight to voicemail, and that was it. That was the moment his phone was gone for good, and from that point on, Tyler Davis was never seen or heard from again. That's when panic really started to kick in. Brittany told Sean they needed to go search, but Sean kept trying to calm her down, telling her not to worry, that Tyler was fine, that he'd be back soon. Then at 4:30 a.m., Sean said he was heading home. He only lived about 10 minutes away. Brittany was shocked. The two of them got into an argument about it. She was frustrated. They were in an unfamiliar area. Tyler was still missing, and now she was alone. But Sean kept trying to reassure her. He told her to go back upstairs and said he'd be back soon. So now Brittany was on her own. Her phone was still low, so she went back upstairs, plugged it in, and called a close friend, Harley. She talked to her for about 20 minutes while the battery charged and then headed back out to search. She kept Harley on the line the whole time. It was just after 5 a.m. when Brittany left the hotel again, this time retracing Tyler's steps in the dark. She didn't go through the shopping center. She followed the direction she'd seen him go, toward the condos, toward the main road. There were no streetlights in some areas, no foot traffic, no signs, just dark, empty roads. She made it nearly a mile from the hotel before turning back, and by then the sun was starting to rise, still no sign of Tyler. Her panic kept building. She called local hospitals. She called the jail, but no one had picked him up. It was like he vanished into thin air. She held off on calling the police or Tyler's parents. She didn't want to overreact, not yet. She figured he'd turn up soon and didn't want to scare anyone if this really was just a misunderstanding. That's when she called Adam, a close friend and former roommate who lived nearby in Columbus. The second she told him what was going on, he didn't hesitate. He got in his car and drove straight over. He was there within 10 minutes. The first thing he asked was, "Did you get into a fight?" Brittany told him no. The night had actually been great. Fun even. No arguments, no tension. Tyler had just walked off. That was it. Adam tried to calm her down, told her not to panic. Said maybe Tyler had passed out on a bench somewhere, so they got in the car and started driving, circling nearby streets, checking corners, looking along the routes Tyler might have taken. They searched for close to an hour. Eventually, Brittany went back to the hotel room, but it was still empty. She remembered Tyler's phone had been dying. He'd mentioned it back at the dollhouse, and he didn't have anyone's number memorized, not even hers. So while she and Adam stood in the room, she grabbed a notepad, jotted down her phone number, and left it next to the hotel phone, just in case he came back and needed to call. And then they started thinking about the size of the hotel. It was huge, with ballrooms, meeting rooms, and a full convention center attached. So they decided to search it, top to bottom, hallways, stairwells, conference wings, anywhere he might have gotten turned around. And the clock was ticking. Checkout was coming in just over an hour. So they moved fast, floor by floor, calling his name, checking every corner they could reach. The Hilton was massive, endless corridors, winding turns. If Tyler had made it back and just gotten lost inside, they were going to find him, but there was still no sign of him. Brittany called the hospitals again, the jails again, still nothing. No one matching his description, no records, no intake, just silence. And that's when she made the call she'd been avoiding all morning. She called Tyler's parents. She didn't want to scare them. She kept thinking maybe he'd show up, maybe she was overreacting, but time was passing and she couldn't wait any longer. His mom, Rhonda, stayed on the phone. Tried to keep Brittany calm, but his dad, Kevin, didn't even pause. He got in the car and started driving straight to Columbus. While they waited for him to arrive, Brittany and Adam got back in the car, started circling again, different streets, new areas, just hoping for something, a clue, a sighting, anything. About 45 minutes later, Kevin pulled in. Brittany met him outside and explained everything, what had happened, what they'd already done, and how long it had been. And without saying much, Kevin took off on foot. He walked nearly 30 miles that day, through side streets, past wooded areas, and any place Tyler might have gone, calling out his son's name, over and over. Meanwhile, Rhonda called Brittany again. She said gently, "It's time. You need to file a missing persons report." So Brittany did. She laid it all out, Tyler's exhaustion, how confused he'd been, how he walked off alone in the middle of the night. She also gave a full physical description, 29 years old, 5'10", about 170 pounds, brown eyes, blackish brown hair. That night he'd been wearing a blue and green flannel shirt, jeans, and black and white Nike shoes. And then she gave the detail no one would forget. Tyler had a large red birthmark. It started on his right hand and stretched all the way up his arm, across his chest and part of his back. It was impossible to miss. If someone had seen him, they would have known. But the response she got was the kind too many families hear. An officer looked at her and said, "Well, he's not a minor. He's not elderly. And as far as I'm concerned, a 29-year-old can leave of his own accord." She was stunned. That afternoon, still standing in the parking lot, she walked them through everything. Every call, the Uber ride, and what happened when they got back to the hotel. And still, the message was the same. He was an adult. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he'd show up later. One of them even said he's probably passed out somewhere. By 1 p.m., Tyler was finally entered into the system as a missing person. But that didn't stop Brittany, Kevin, or Adam. They kept searching. They stayed out looking for hours until around 5 p.m. when Brittany was instructed to go pick up her son. As she was leaving, the detective called. But from the first few minutes of the conversation, Brittany got the sense they weren't going to be much help. She said the tone felt cold, dismissive, like it wasn't a priority. That's when she made the decision. She was going to take matters into her own hands. On Sunday night, early into Monday morning, Brittany drove back to Columbus. A few close friends came with her, and 2 of Tyler's co-workers met her there. Around 1 a.m., they regrouped and got to work. She walked straight into the Hilton and spoke with the night manager. She introduced herself, explained what was going on, and showed them a picture of Tyler. She let them know they were planning to search the area. The manager said they'd try to pull the security footage and gave her the okay to go ahead. Then they went back out and started searching again. They were out there for hours, walking, calling Tyler's name, trying to picture what he might have seen when he made that call. He said he could see the Hilton. He said he was walking through the woods. So now they were trying to figure it out. What angle would have given him that view? What direction could he have been coming from? Was there a pocket of trees somewhere near the hotel? They checked everything. They also stopped by Easton security. Brittany explained the whole situation, who Tyler was, when he'd gone missing, and where they'd already looked. She told them they planned to keep searching. Security didn't push back. At one point, a Columbus police officer approached Brittany. He had just started his shift and mentioned the report had come in about 12 hours earlier. "Don't think we haven't started or we're not looking," he said. "We're going to get on the case." Then came something that felt like a breakthrough. An Easton security officer told Brittany they'd reviewed footage from around the time Tyler disappeared and they'd spotted someone, a man walking near the hotel around 4:15 a.m. The timing lined up. It matched the 4:10 phone call when Tyler said he could see the Hilton and would be there in a few minutes. They said the person looked like him, similar height, same build, and headed toward the hotel. For a second, it felt like they were finally closing in, but the more they watched, the more doubts crept in. The video was grainy and the lighting was bad. And then came the gut punch. It wasn't Tyler. It was Sean, walking back to the hotel after he and Brittany had split up to search closer to the road. What looked like a break in the case was just a mistake. Despite how busy and well lit the Easton area is, lined with hotels, restaurants, banks, and shopping centers, not one surveillance camera ever caught Tyler on video again. No one saw him crossing a parking lot. With no security footage showing Tyler after 3:18 a.m., investigators turned to something else, his phone. Police pulled the GPS history, most likely through Google, and what they found painted a clear picture. After leaving the Hilton, Tyler crossed the street toward a group of condos, just like Brittany saw. From there, he passed through the area near Huntington Bank and ended up near Morse Crossing and the back side of Abbott Laboratories, just outside Easton Town Center. It's a commercial zone filled with offices, parking lots, and a few retail businesses, less walkable than the main shopping area, but still covered by surveillance cameras. Yet somehow, no surveillance footage ever captured him there either. And while the GPS gave police part of the picture, it wasn't the only clue. Sometime during the night, Tyler used a voice command that hasn't been publicly time-stamped. In it, he says, "Take me to the Hilton, room 403, Columbus, Ohio."
Take me to the Hilton, room 403, Columbus, Ohio. Let's go.
That's the correct hotel, the correct city, even the right room number. He knew where he was supposed to go. He was trying to get back. But something shifted. Just 20 minutes later, at 3:51 a.m., came another voice command. This one was confirmed through GPS data, and this time it sounded different. He seemed more disoriented, more frustrated.
"Take me to Easton Suites,"
he said. "Take me to Easton Suites." But no hotel by that exact name exists. The closest match is Homewood Suites by Hilton, located on the other side of Easton. And that one line told investigators something important. He wasn't running. He wasn't trying to disappear. He was lost. And he was getting more confused by the minute. That would make sense because just 2 minutes later, at 3:53 a.m., Tyler's phone stopped recording his location. The final ping came from an area near the Abbott Lab site, about 1.5 miles from the Hilton. That's as far as investigators could trace him. In the days that followed, the urgency kept building. Brittany and Tyler's family pressed for answers, and by Tuesday, an official search was underway. Police brought in K-9 units, helicopters, and divers to cover the area. One of the cadaver dogs alerted near a pond behind Costco. Divers were sent in and the pond was fully dragged, then searched again later. While Easton itself is heavily developed, the outskirts are different. There are wooded patches, overgrown drainage areas, and retention ponds that some have described as swampy, all within the search zone. Just south of Tyler's last known location, near the edge of the Abbott Labs property, there's a patch of woods that dips into wetland terrain, thick, muddy, and uneven. It's not the Everglades, but it's not easy to move through, especially in the dark. Police expanded their efforts to include areas like these, and many were searched. But to this day, some locals believe certain pockets of wetland, especially the thicker, more treacherous spots near the Abbott Labs area, may not have been fully cleared due to how difficult they were to access. Despite the searches, no phone, no clothes, no remains, no trace of Tyler was ever found. And then there's Sean. People still ask, why did Sean leave the hotel around 4:30 a.m. when Tyler was still missing? Why didn't he stay and help look? His story hasn't changed. He said Tyler was fine, that he'd be right back, and then he left. Sean hasn't spoken publicly since, and he declined to take a polygraph, instead hiring an attorney. Some people saw that as suspicious, but it's worth noting polygraphs aren't admissible in court, and innocent people retain lawyers all the time, especially when they feel like they're under a microscope. But according to Brittany, he helped in the beginning. The two of them passed out thousands of flyers together, and he was initially cooperative with police. Brittany has never accused him of any wrongdoing. In fact, she's gone out of her way to say that she doesn't think he had anything to do with it. Brittany, on the other hand, did take a polygraph and passed. She's always said she has nothing to hide. She just wants answers. From the beginning, she's appeared honest and determined to find the truth. She's shared her story in interviews, on podcasts, and with anyone willing to listen, opening up about how this has affected her family and everyone who loved Tyler. And maybe she has told the truth. Maybe everything we know is exactly what happened. But there's one moment that seems really odd to me. Tyler told them, "We're not where we're supposed to be." If he truly believed they were at the wrong hotel, why wouldn't he want Brittany to come with him? Why not say, "Let's go," or "Come on, we're at the wrong place," instead of walking off alone? That moment might not have been about the hotel. It felt like he was trying to get away from them, not just the building. So what happened in that car or back at the club that we still don't know? Are we hearing everything, or did something else make him walk away? It seems like we're missing big pieces of the puzzle, and until those pieces surface, the questions are only going to grow louder. In the days that followed, Brittany wasn't just waiting for updates. She started building her own timeline. With help from Lori Davis, a victim advocate who supports families with missing persons cases, she began pulling everything she could: bar receipts, Uber logs, phone records, and bank transactions. She highlighted them, printed them out, and lined everything up minute by minute. Then she handed it all over to investigators and walked them through every detail, start to finish. In March, she launched the Facebook group Bring Tyler Davis Home, a way to share updates, organize information, and keep his name in the public eye. She's also gone on podcasts, done interviews, and spoken publicly about what happened, hoping anyone might come forward. In the years since, Brittany has done everything she can to keep Tyler's name from fading. She's raising Aaron, the son they shared, on her own. He was a toddler when his dad disappeared. Now he's old enough to ask questions, and Brittany has to find the words without having any real answers. She's adjusted to life as a single mom, managing the bills, the decisions, and every hard moment alone. No partner, no backup, just her and the little boy she and Tyler were supposed to raise together. On December 15th, 2021, Tyler Davis was legally declared presumed deceased by a judge in Clinton County, Ohio, just under 3 years after he vanished. That ruling came under a specific provision in Ohio law that allows for an early presumption of death when someone disappears under life-threatening circumstances. It's called exposure to a specific peril of death. And in Tyler's case, lost, disoriented, alone in the middle of the night with no confirmed sightings after he walked away from the Hilton, the court agreed that standard had been met. But 6 years later, after all the searches, all the silence, what's left is a trail of mistakes, footage that was never pulled, businesses never contacted, data that should have been preserved, lost. And one question that still lingers: what happened to Tyler Davis? There are theories. A lot of them. But when you peel back the layers, most fall into a handful of categories. No answers, no proof, just speculation, and a timeline full of holes. First, human trafficking. This is the theory Brittany has spoken about publicly. She's said it herself. 5 men around Tyler's age went missing in that same region around the same time. And she's asked the question directly: why hasn't this been in the news more? According to her, a detective once told her they didn't want to cause panic. That alone is unsettling. Ohio consistently ranks among the top 5 states for human trafficking, and while Tyler's profile doesn't align with the usual victims, his vulnerability that night, disoriented, alone, possibly confused, could have made him a target. Brittany hasn't ruled it out, and given how many cases go undetected in plain sight, it's a possibility that can't be ignored. Second, accidental death. Some believe Tyler got turned around and wandered into danger. A fall into a retention pond, a construction site, a drainage ditch. One cadaver dog hit on a pond behind Costco, prompting divers to search it multiple times, but nothing was found. No phone, no clothing, no trace of Tyler. There are pockets, wetlands, wooded patches, and overgrown terrain that can be tough to navigate, especially at night. If Tyler was disoriented, exhausted, and walking blindly through unfamiliar ground, it's possible he fell somewhere hidden. Hypothermia, a head injury, a drop into a low visibility ditch. Something that could have taken his life quickly and left him out of view. Still, in a city lined with cameras, the idea that no one saw him once has always felt hard to accept. Third, victim of a crime. It's one of the hardest possibilities to think about, but it can't be ruled out. Tyler was disoriented, alone, and off camera for a long stretch of time. He could have been mugged, hit by a car, caught up in a confrontation, whether with someone he knew or a complete stranger. There's no public evidence pointing to any one person. But the gap in time, combined with the lack of witnesses or physical evidence, has led many to question whether foul play could have occurred. Without answers, it remains one of the most unsettling possibilities. Fourth, drugs. There's no hard evidence Tyler was drugged, but some believe his sudden change in demeanor that night, becoming disoriented, paranoid, angry, could point to something more than alcohol. The moment that stands out most is when Brittany left her drink unattended inside the dollhouse while she stepped out to smoke. She took a sip when she returned and handed the rest to Tyler. After that, everything changed, but if it was spiked, why target a woman who was with two big men the entire night? It seems like there would have been an easier target. Some online theories even go as far as suggesting Brittany herself might have drugged Tyler. There's no proof of that either, but in the absence of answers, speculation multiplies. Fifth, the smiley face killer theory. It's controversial, but the pattern is hard to ignore. A growing number of young men, usually athletic, intelligent, and social, have disappeared under strange circumstances after nights out drinking. Many of them were later found in bodies of water. And in a few of those cases, investigators say graffiti resembling a smiley face was found nearby. Some believe it's coincidence. Others think it's a pattern. Tyler's disappearance checks almost every box. A night out, disoriented, separated from the group, then gone, and never found. No theory explains everything, and no theory has led to real evidence. The truth is, we're still stuck with a broken timeline. No text to confirm what was actually said, just phone calls, so we're left relying on their version of events, and someone out there knows why. If you have any information about Tyler Davis, please contact the Columbus Police at 614-645-4545. And if you can, share this video to help keep his story alive. Thank you for watching Eyes on Crime.